Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. Today we're talking Tottenham. Are they the new Arsenal? Now this is going to hit North London and it's going to be like, oh, don't compare us to Tottenham and Tottenham fans comparing this. But reality is, I'm looking at Tottenham, I'm looking at this new season, and if I'm a Tottenham fan, which I'm not, but if I am, I'm terrified of that new season. Not just because you're in the Europa Conference League, which I don't even know what it is, which we'll talk about in a minute, but also because you're in a bad way. You're in a really, really bad way. And look, Harry Kane desperately wants to get out of Tottenham. I don't know whether he will or he won't, but he absolutely adamantly wants to get out. And it wouldn't be so bad if Harry Kane wanted to get out of Tottenham because he wanted to win things and, Tottenham just kept getting fourth or third and he wants to win something. It's even worse than that. He wants to get out of Tottenham because he wants to win things, but also I think he knows that Tottenham could be finishing 8th next season, and that's why I'm saying, are Tottenham now the new Arsenal? This is not really a dig at Arsenal. Some people might be surprised by that. It's not really a dig at Arsenal because I think, interestingly, I'm just going to mention something about Arteta in a minute, but Arsenal have finished 8th in the last 2 years, massively underachieving. It's not about really digging Arsenal out. We can do that. We could spend hours doing that. It's not about that. It's about being the new Arsenal. And I think what Arsenal are for me is they are a big club that is massively underachieving. And I think Tottenham are in danger of becoming that because I don't think Arsenal will finish 8th this year. The reason I don't think Arsenal finish 8th this year is because they're not in European football. I think they have a decent squad. I think Arteta is gradually slow burner getting them better. And I do think they'll make some interesting signings this summer. So I think Arsenal, with no other distractions, no Thursday night football, none of this Conference League stuff, definitely no Champions League football, don't be ridiculous, but I think that will help them, and I think that's helped Leicester and other clubs in the past. I think that will help Arsenal be fresh and focused, and Arteta can basically put them out and tell them to go and run their arse off for 90 minutes once a week. But with Spurs, they haven't got that luxury. And what I wanted to mention is that the reason I think that Tottenham are going to be the new Arsenal is because I think they are in chaos. I really do. I thought Mourinho was a bad appointment, but at least you could say Mourinho is one of the greatest managers there's ever been. Maybe he can get his mojo back at Spurs. He couldn't. He couldn't get it back. But to go from Mourinho to Nuno, I was stunned by this. When they were looking at Conte, I was like, that's quite interesting. But Nuno is just such a boring appointment. I mean, he basically got sacked by Wolves. I know they're saying they didn't sack him, but he did so bad last year. And the thing is, you can't say with Wolves that he doesn't have the quality. There's a lot of good flair players at Wolves, and they still play this very United went up there in his last game at Wolves. There was even fans in the ground. We took our reserves up and played them off the park. Like, they were just so dull and so boring, Wolves. In fact, I'm interested to see what Wolves will be like next year with a manager that maybe doesn't play so dull and boring, because I think they could be better. So I think Spurs are basically getting a B-Tech Mourinho. That's the fear, is that they're getting a B-Tech Mourinho, and that didn't go down well. I don't think Nuno will be there in a year. I actually think he will fail and fail badly, and I hope he doesn't. I think he's a likeable guy, and I think Spurs are a likeable club, but I think I'd be panicked if I was Spurs. What they need to do is find a way to build a team that Nuno can, have a chance, because I just don't see them finishing anywhere near the top 6. So if they do, that's a good season. Top 4, forget about it. But I suppose most of it will come down to Harry Kane. As I said, Harry Kane is so desperate to get out of that club, and you can understand why. He loves it, but it's taken a step back. And what I mean by that is, I saw something very interesting today. Points per what does basically a manager average points per game? And I was looking on Transfer Market at this. So Sean Dyche at Burnley averages 1.38 points per game, which is not too bad really. It's more than he basically, what's that? 1.38. It's around sort of 43, 44 points a season, I suppose, isn't it? Now, Nuno averages 1.68 points per game. 1.68. Mourinho at a bad Spurs was 1.77. So Mourinho, who was sacked by Spurs, averages more points per game, and this doesn't include Chelsea and United. This is his Spurs record alone. He averaged 1.77 points per game for Spurs. Yet Nuno at Wolves averaged 1.66. Sorry, 1.68. So that's less than that. Pochettino at Spurs was averaging 1.84, and Arteta at Arsenal is averaging 1.83. And yet, Arsenal have finished 8th twice. And yet he's averaging way more than than Nuno did at Wolves. So I don't get this appointment. I do not get this appointment. It looks like it's desperation, like everybody said. I think everybody had been offered the job, hadn't they, by the time Nuno took it? And Wolves, Spurs just had to take somebody. So I'd be very worried about this. I suppose the only thing I would say is that because everyone's so worried about it and everyone thinks it's going to not work, maybe it's just going to be one of those things where, for some reason he's the perfect fit. And but I don't think the football's going to be good. And I also think as well, this thing for Spurs that they don't have over Arsenal is that Arsenal are going to find it very weird not playing midweek football when it's European week. But I think that will benefit them maybe in a year's time if they get near the top 6, which I think they will. I don't think Arsenal can get top 4. But for Spurs, what are they doing? They're playing in this Conference League thing, which I had a look at before I did this video, and I can't even understand it myself. Basically, the only 4 decent teams that are in this tournament are Tottenham, and I say decent with a bit of a pinch of salt. Tottenham, Union Berlin, Rennes, and Roma. There are going to be lots of other teams in it because it's called a bloody Conference Cup or something, isn't it? But the teams are going to come from the teams that don't get through the Champions League qualifying rounds and the teams that don't get through the Europa League qualifying rounds. I mean, bloody hell, have you seen the Europa League? Like the group stages. I mean, I was tell you what. I was speaking to Dave down the road the other day because he runs the local Dog and Duck pub, right? And they've got a team on Sunday mornings. He's rejected Conference League because they just can't do the travelling. He said, the lads are too unreliable. I mean, who are they inviting into this Conference League to play with Tottenham? Which is going to be a hindrance. It is going to be a hindrance as well. So I think Spurs have got a really, really interesting season coming up. And I think that if I was, and at the moment, it's very difficult because of transfers, but at the moment, I'd be very worried if I was a Spurs fan. Keeping Harry Kane is essential to keep you relevant, but he doesn't want to be there. And if he's going to go, you need to spend that money really, really well. Look, £150 million for Harry Kane could be spent very, very well. Spurs have some good players. But I feel with Spurs that they've just taken a huge step backwards. Spurs, for me, have always been a club that on their day can beat anybody. But I think over the last sort of 6 years, they became a club that was almost knocking on the door of being a contender. They got to a Champions League final. They were getting top 4 regularly. It feels like they're slipping back to where they were 10 years ago under Harry Redknapp and people like that. And look, Harry Redknapp did get them in the Champions League, but it never felt like it was a permanent thing. It always felt like they were boxing above their weight. And I think Spurs could be heading back towards that in a very, very big way because, look, Dele Alli was a player they were trying to sell who now is going to become, we need Dele Alli again. And I think that's the problem with Spurs. These players that weren't deemed quite good enough when a year ago or 2 years ago are now very important again. And I just think with Spurs, their new challenge is, can they compete with Leicester? Can they compete with Everton? Can they compete with Arsenal? The top 4, I think, is obviously going to be City, Chelsea, Liverpool, United, hopefully. And then I think you've got a next 4, which is Leicester, Arsenal, Everton, Tottenham, competing for 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. And maybe 4th if one of them drop out. And that, for Spurs, is a big, big drop-off. Anyway, get your comments in below. What are your thoughts? Are Spurs destined to become the new Arsenal? And look, I'm not digging Arsenal out. Arsenal are in that 8th spot. We're talking about 2 teams of 4 here. We're talking about the top 4, and then we're talking about the next 4. With Leicester, with Everton, with Spurs, with Arsenal, with Chelsea, with Man United, with Man City, and with Liverpool. 8th place, that's Arsenal's. Who's going to be the new Arsenal this year? And I think Tottenham have got a lot to worry about. They've got to solve the Kane issue. And I just don't think Nuno's the right fit. But we'll see. Thanks for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe bottom right hand corner. Get your comments in below.